Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher, and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, August the 1st. It is the first day of a new month, and hence the title for this particular video is Let's Talk Jolly July Wrap Up-ish. That will become evident for the reasons for that in a bit. If you are a new viewer, thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back and monitoring my slow but steady-ish progress on projects. Anyway, the topic for this week, because it's the wrap-up, generally it's going to cover the stitching, which is going to be at the beginning. But I did get a couple of questions on last week's video with respect to the Mill Hill kit. Well, one specifically with respect to the Mill Hill kit and the number of strands that I'm using for things. Lena asked me a question about some back stitching, and so I figured I would roll those two questions and talk about them at the very end of the video, because some of those questions I need something to point to and show, which my Mill Hill kit will work for quite well. So those questions I'm going to answer at the very end, so if you aren't interested at all, you don't have to stay and watch those things. As I said, today is Sunday, August the 1st. It is a sunny, warm day. Generally all the things that I really like, other than it's really smoky. It sounds like, even for me, I just really wish we could have a good rain, because it would help clear out the air. Certainly when you drive around where I live, it looks like I live where there's horrible pollution. I know it's all smoke related from the forest fires to the west of us. The other thing about it being a sunny, warm day is there's two things. One, one of the windows in this room is open. Because this is a sunroom, it does tend to get quite warm. So I'm trying to keep a couple of things at bay. The window is open, but the kids next door are outside playing. And I'm all for 47 thumbs up for letting your kids be outside and playing and all that good stuff. But the window is open, so if you hear random yelling, screaming, weird things, odd background noises, fair warning, the kids are next door playing outside. They're having a pretty good time, which is great, but you may get a lot of random noises. The other thing, because as usual I'm filming in this room because it has some of the best lighting that I've got set up here, but it is warm and getting warmer with every passing minute, even with the windows open. So fair warning, I may get a little glowy on you as this video progresses. And with that, let's get into some stitching. Let's start with, you know, the never-ending project, what I call the never-ending Nativity. This is the Bethlehem Star from the Marbeck Nativity. If you are new, this is a 5-panel design. I just have to finish this top part and then the thing is ready to go to the framers. It's taking me 47 years to get this finished. Anyway, never mind that. And this week, given how little progress I made on it this week, you will know exactly why it is taking me 47 years to get this accomplished. Some of that, this particular week, it was by design. So this week I did work on it, but I only worked on it for a very, very, very little bit, intentionally. I know it doesn't help me get things finished faster. So not a huge amount of progress on this between this video and last week's video. So I finished off this pink here, so that means of the 4 colors that are in the bottom part of this skirt, dress, robe, whatever you want to call it, 2 of them are now complete. I only have 2 left to go. So my goal for this week is to finish off the DMC stitching in this. Because I spent the majority of my stitching time this week working on, there it is. I was going to say, wait a minute. This is a Mill Hill kit called Visit from St. Nick Quartet. There's 4 kits in this particular series. This is the first one called The Stockings Were Hung. And so what I'm doing for 2021 is every month I am starting a new project and making that my focus piece. which is why the never-ending Nativity doesn't get finished very quickly. Anyway, that's not the point. Okay, so I started off the month with absolutely nothing on this piece of fabric, and here's where I've gotten to. Good news and bad news. So the good news is I got a lot of progress on this week. The bad news is it's not finished. It's close, but not quite. All of the stitching was completed this week. All of the back stitching was completed on this. And the beads were started. Now I'm going to hold it up really close. So you'll see that there are some gaps, so there's some beads that belong in here and along in here, and there's quite a few left. Okay, quite a few, like I'd say 60 or 70 left to go probably in this tree. And then, you know, the ones in the stocking and all that kind of stuff. So it's almost finished. Almost finished. So even though what I normally do is I only work on these new pieces for the month that they're started in, and then come the end of the month I put them away, that's not what I'm doing for this one, because I am so close. So welcome to August the 1st. I have a new start, but tonight I'm going to sit down and I'm going to finish this. We're so close to a finish. So as far as I'm concerned, it's really, I just need one more evening and this will be finished. And so that's what I'm doing. That's also why the topic for this week is wrap up-ish, question mark, because it's not quite a wrap up, because you're going to see this piece again next week. Hopefully, brace yourself for a finish, because that's my goal for tonight. Hopefully tonight, by the time the clock strikes midnight, this piece will be done, all the beads will be on it, etc., etc., etc. So that's good. Now, we'll talk about this again when we get to Stitch from Stash, and we're going to talk about this again at the end. But yes, for this month, I figured I did not bad. All right. Now, it is a new month. So on the 1st of every month, that's when I start my new focus piece. And so this morning I did get up and I worked on my new piece. So I'd have a little bit to show you, because my whole plan was tonight, I'm not working on the new piece, I'm finishing off my Mill Hill kit. And quite frankly, my goal for this week is 1, I've got to finish off the Mill Hill kit tonight. 2, I've got to finish off the DMC for the bottom part of that skirt. And once those 2 things are done, then I get to go back and work on my new piece. Now, as I have done in several episodes before, I'm sort of going to be mean. I'm not going to tell you what the name of the chart is that I've started. Some of you will remember that I gave you a little bit of a quiz. Not a quiz. I allowed you to vote on what I was doing. And I think I just got rid of my... Nope, I didn't. There it is. There we go. All right. So I showed you 2 pieces of fabric and I showed you the floss. This was a number of weeks ago, related to my August start. Several of you chimed in and opined. I have now made my final decision, and I've made my final decision, and as I said, I got up this morning and I worked on it. So this is my August new start. Let's say I should actually probably put it on this. It would make things go a little bit better. That will work for me. So here is my very little start. Not bad. So in case you're wondering, so the choice of the fabrics was either, so this is a 32 count Lugana, and the color choices was either soft ivory or lilac. I have chosen the lilac. So this is my start. tune in next week and see what the actual chart is. I'll let you see if you can guess the designer. There's probably some key contenders, but you just never know. But I will tell you, this is a surprising one because if you've watched my channel for any amount of time, you know I like to change things. So I will say that clearly the fabric choice is different from the called for, but the floss that I am using is actually the called for. So it is a variegated silk floss from Valdani. Their numbering systems are weird. I'm calling it S1. So this is, let's see if I've got something right. You can go. So this is what it looks, oh, that's a terrible. So this is what it looks like on the ball. So my expectations based on what I've seen in the chart is that I'm going to need 2. So I have 2. I actually have more, but I have the 2. Here is the one that I, of course, have started. So it's starting to look a little more rumpled because I'm pulling stuff off the ball. But this is the beauty of a floss away bag. Because ball, skein, whatever it is, it's gonna not escape from me. So that is my, so the ones that I used in here to start it today, they are the ones I did sample swatches when I showed my 2 colors, my 2 color fabrics. So I unstitched those, and these are, so from that one length that I had pulled off the ball to do those 2 swatches and the 2 strands that were left behind, that's what I used to do this. So my first length of 6-stranded Valdani silk has been stitched and put into this project. Now I've watched a couple of people on other Flosstube channels where they tend to start things and they forget which way things go because they haven't done enough. Now technically I still think, because I also marked my chart, that I would probably know where I was on this one, but you can tell that it does have some geometrical symmetry to it. So I have also stitched a little arrow onto the sides of my fabric, both left and right, way over here in the margin, just to mark to say which way is up. So just in case, for some reason, if I 100% changed my mind, started working on something else, put it away for 12 years, when I brought it back out, I would know which way was up. So that is my start for August. I'm looking forward to stitching on this one. Like I say, I'm actually not going to stitch on this one again until my DMC and Nativity is finished and I have finished my Mill Hill kit. Now, that shouldn't take the majority of the week, so I should be able, towards the end of this week, get some good progress on this one. So that is my new start. Tune in next week, see for the big reveal of what it actually is. And with that, let's talk a little bit. I've got a free chart for you. The picture for this is terrible because I had to take it off of Helen's Flosstube video, and I'm not sure I did my best job about getting this, but so Helen D is a Flosstuber, and she periodically provides these free charts, and so she designs them, she stitches them up, she shows them on her Flosstube channel, and then she puts them for free on a link tree. So I will put a link to her video where she first talked about this. The link to her link tree with all of her free charts is on every single one of her videos. I enjoy her videos. She does finishing, all that kind of stuff. But this is her summer one. Now, again, this is not a good picture of it. It's called Beaches and Bikinis. So the words are beaches, bikinis, sandals, and sunscreen. She did this in an aqua. She did a variegated purple for the flip-flops, and she used silver beads to do the top of the flip-flops, which I thought was fantastic. I loved this. Thought it was awesome. So she's got ones that say like stars and stripes and fireworks and something. She did one for Easter. She did one for St. Patrick's Day. So they're all very similar. She's all they generally have 4 words on the left-hand side and then a motif of some kind on the right. But they're all available for free. Again, I will put a link to her video where she showed this originally. In the notes section to that video is where her link is to all of her free patterns. So if you like this one and you want to see the other ones, you can just go there and get that. So that's my free chart for this week. Okay. Before I show you some of my Stashquisitions, I'm going to give my July Stitch from Stash report. As expected, I'm ending the first month of the new segment in the hole because I did not get my Mill Hill kit finished. Now, so here's the report. So last week I showed you my Stashquisitions that counted towards my July Stitch from Stash. As well, I had that $5 chart from Etsy that I got. My budget for Stitch from Stash is $25 every month. So I started with 0, gave myself my budget of $25. I spent $50.03 on stuff this month. So I'm ending the month in the hole of minus $25.03. Now, that came as, again, that's a little bit expected for a couple of reasons. One, because I bought those charts that I were on my, which I was going to get anyway. The thing that threw me over is that frame for this particular Mill Hill kit. Again, traditional stitches happen to have one. I got it. They had one, I got it. It came home, and pretty much that's largely the thing that took me over my budget. Again, still totally fine with the choice. Now, at the beginning of every month, I add to my budget, and the way Stitch from Stash works for the group that I'm participating in, and it is cumulative over 6 months. So technically, as of today, another $25 have been added to my running tally, which means as of this moment in time, I am in the hole 3 cents. Minus $25.03 yesterday, minus 3 cents as of today. A couple of things I'm going to tell you right now. I've placed a couple of orders. I know we haven't even hit Needlework Expo. I placed a couple of orders. When the first of those orders comes in, I will talk about them and I will explain to you my reasoning. I'm still going. It's not going to hugely damage the budget, but it's certainly going to. Anyway, I've got to get some stuff finished, but I'm closing. I'm closing in on a couple of finishes that will hopefully get everything back into a reasonable set of order here. But again, certainly when the first of those orders comes in, we'll talk about it, and I'll be very clear about why I'm doing what I'm doing. So minus $25.03 as of yesterday, minus 3 cents as of today, with a couple of finishes coming up hopefully in the month of August. My new start is not going to get finished this month, but the Mill Hill kit's going to get finished tonight. Maybe the Never-Ending Nativity will get finished this month. Okay. Now, I do have some other Stashquisitions to show. As I said before, we got into the new version of Stitch from Stash, which kicked in July 1. I had placed a couple of orders, which had not yet arrived by the time we hit July. So 2 of them have arrived. I think there's a 3rd one that's coming, excluding the new ones I've placed in the last week. But anyway, and you're gonna laugh when you see these ones. Well, a couple of them will make sense. I had a theme going on in my mind, and everything I'm going to that's not true. Everything but one. Okay, let's do the one that's not. So this one I paid full price for. I saw this somewhere else, and then I had to look and look and look to find where I could get it. Beach. Best escape anyone can have, which is really how I think about the beach. I love the beach. I love going to the beach. I love water, sand, heat, Slurpees. Anyway, there's no Slurpee on here. That's not the point. So yeah, so this one, it actually was not readily available. It actually took me quite a bit of time to find this on somebody's website. And I did look at a couple of distributor sites and it wasn't on there either. So again, it's, I don't know if I don't know if Traditional Stitches could have gotten it in, but it was a little bit of an odd one. So again, I looked around on the internet, found somewhere and bought it. So this one I paid full price for. Okay, now, but while I was there, so the problem is I found this on this was a store down in the US. I honestly don't remember what the name of it was. But while I'm there, here's where my problem is while I'm trolling around in online needle workshops, my default position is you always have to have a quick look at what's going on in their sale section. And so everything else here came from their sale section because I like them and they were on sale. Generally, they were on sale probably, I would say almost everything that's now coming up was 50% off the regular price. So this is from JBW Designs called Beach Bound. So this is a little one, 117 by 51. If you do it on 30 count fabric, it turns into just under 8 inches wide by 3.5 inches high. The beach fixes everything. Can you see a theme? Because I can see a theme. This is called Village Blooms. Now, true to form, I like the concept of this. I'm not sure I necessarily love these specific color choices, but I actually like how it looks. I just think I need to fix the colors, which is not something that is atypical for me. This is Ink Circles Pentatonic. Now, the thing about these ink circles, this is sort of like, this is sort of, she's got these series of charts called Roll Your Own. And the Roll Your Own is really meaning choose your own colors. So even here on the cover, she's shown it in 3 different colorways. If you actually Google ink circles roll your own, so there's a huge number of charts. When she was originally starting these, they were online only as PDFs directly from Ink Circles. She's now compiled them into a series of charts. I think there's 3 per chart. So this is just one. This was sort of an add-on to the Roll Your Own series. But if you Google Ink Circles Roll Your Own, you'll probably, somewhere on her site, she's got like a bajillion combinations of colors, because when she first kicked this off, if you were part of the online PDFs, which I was, I didn't stitch them yet, but I wanted to watch and participate and get them. You could actually email her your color choices and she would do a mock-up of those color choices, so you could say, oh yeah, no, that's what I thought that was going to look like, or you could tweak it from there. So I think she's got something like 60-ish color combinations available on her website or her blog or something like that. So again, I may have a look and see if I can't find that and put that in the links below. But like I say, I came across it somewhere and I was like, yeah, I had forgotten how many combinations that she'd actually, people had asked her for and had been working on in the original series. So this one, because this is an add-on, this wasn't part of the ones that I got originally. And it was sitting there in the sale section for 50% off. And I was ordering from there anyway, so it came home. So those are my Stashquisitions that I'm showing this particular week. Like I say, I do have some others that are sitting in a pile. I'm dribbling and drabbling them out, and like I say, I do have a couple more orders left to come. we'll report on those. And with that, that's all of the regularly scheduled stuff that I've got for this particular episode. If you were interested in hearing me talking about a few more things about stitching with the Mill Hill kit and back stitching, just stay watching. And if that's not for you, thanks for stopping by. Hope you have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Okay. So one of the questions from Charlotte was I using 2 strands or 3 strands on my Mill Hill kit? Because she tends, in the Mill Hill kits, it says to use 3 strands on the perforated paper. She tends to find it bulky. So was I using 2 or 3 strands for this particular kit? So technically that's not necessarily a good question on this particular kit. So this particular kit actually comes with fabric. So this is a 16 count Aida. It did come with the kit. So this isn't one where it started off with perforated paper and I've just swapped in some fabric, which you can absolutely do for any of their kits. I'm actually using the material that came with the kit, which was the 16 count Aida. On this particular kit, it does say to use 2 strands of DMC floss over 1 thread on the Aida, which is exactly what I did. So again, 2 strands over 16 count or 2 strands on 32 count over 2 threads is good coverage. So I was fine with that. So that's what I've done here. Here's where I didn't necessarily follow all of the instructions. So again, when you get a Mill Hill kit, let's go down here. So a couple of things. So here's, oops, that's horribly glaring. So there's 4 versions of back stitching here, 4 different colors, and over here they gave you the number of strands to use for the back stitching. So for this one, it was 1 and 2. Read your instructions. I can't count. Can I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Yes, 1. 1 and 2 for the first one, 1 strand for each of the next 2, and then 2 strands for the bottom one. Sorry, the problem is because I'm trying to read it backwards in the camera. Anyway, so 4 colors of back stitching. Sometimes it was 1, sometimes it was 2. So I'm going to talk you through a little bit about what my approach is to this now. And they did a good job because they were very clear saying that for some of this, the back stitching that was shown on the chart were to be done as back stitches, but some of them were to be done as straight stitches. So the difference between a back stitch and a straight stitch is usually when you're back stitching, you're sort of going, you know, like on the 16 count Aida, you'd go over effectively 1 stitch. And so if you had a line across multiple squares of your chart, each one of those, like if you had one over 5, you would do 5 stitches as you were back stitching. If you're doing a straight stitch over that same thing, you would just come up at the first point and come down at the end point. And so I will show you some examples of that. Okay. So for example, these lines here, like to do the brickwork, again, so they are both horizontal and vertical. These I did as back stitches. So like the vertical ones are over 2, so I would have done 2 stitches. The horizontal ones are anywhere between 2 and 6 stitches long, which means like if it was 5 stitches, which I think is the one over here, I would have done 5 separate stitches while I was back stitching. When you're doing the back stitching, one of the things you do need to remember is not to pull too tight. Because this is fitting in around existing stitches, like if you pull really tight and you can actually lose that in your stitching. So pull pull your stitch through, but you don't need to pull it like super tight, because that's where if you pull it super tight, it could end up getting a little bit lost in amongst your other stitching that you've done. So for those ones, that's where I did it as individual stitches across multiple squares of the graph. Over here, these diamonds here, so they're coming on an angle where they're kind of like horizontally, they're only going over one thread, but vertically they're going over 2 threads, right? So those are ones where I'm doing them as a straight stitch, where really I went from point to point, and you know, to make the diamond. So I wasn't trying to do it part way. I was just looking at sort of saying, where would I come up that was in an existing hole, and where, you know, where was that line next connecting with a hole in my fabric? And so that's how I approached that. Same thing, these lines here in the back stitching in this stocking, straight back stitch over every single one of those squares. The big one, and they did say this in the instructions, they were very clear. So this is an example. So these ones, like I used one thread, one thread, one thread of DMC to do all of that. For this, they were very clear to say, I'm going to get that down a little bit lighter, to use 2 strands of DMC, and these were done as straight stitches. So what that means is, and again, you'll see that it looks a lot chunkier because I'm going from spot A to spot B. And it's effectively to do sort of longer branch type looking things. And so you're, you know, could this be over 1 vertical thread but 3 horizontal? Sure. So it could go in any direction, but that's an example where I did straight stitches using 2 strands of DMC, which is as per the instructions from the kit, to get that those branches in that pot to look the way that they do. The other thing, so if you've done some back stitching and you don't think that it has shown up very well, you can always go back and do a second strand. So for example, here in this box that's sitting on top of the mantle, the instructions said to use 1 strand of thread. And so I put the 1 strand in and, you know, went on my merry way. But when I came back to it, I'm like, it didn't look good. It wasn't enough. It didn't stand out enough for me. And so I just went back and did another round and went. So that's an example where the instructions said to use 1 strand, but I personally chose to use 2. I'm 50-50 on the clock. Sometimes I look at the clock and I think it looks totally fine. Sometimes I look at the clock and I think there should be a second one. I think 1 is the right answer. Check back next week. I think 1's the right answer though. But that's the other choice, right? If it says to use 1 and it's a problem for you and you aren't liking how it's looking, you can always go back and do 2. I wouldn't do a lot of 2 strands. I would probably do 2 strands across, you know, a little bit of it, and then take a break so that you can have a look at it and see how it looks like. But as I said, you don't have to follow the instructions. I'm not always very good about following the instructions, as we all know. So that's, so that's the difference for me when you're looking at it between choosing to do, you know, technical back stitching versus straight stitches. Again, in this particular kit, they were very good about saying back stitch this, straight stitch that. So for example, they were very clear saying when you're doing this line here in the stocking that this is a back stitch, not a straight stitch. And again, I think that's the correct answer because of how long this is. Like if you just came up at the bottom here and went down at the top, that's a long part on here to just leave it loose. And I think this actually makes it look better. You know, but again, if you're trying to debate between a straight stitch and a back stitch, I would start with the straight stitch because it's just up at 1, down at 2. And then if it doesn't look right, or you sort of go like it looks too floppy, or it's not like, doesn't look like it's going to hold up straight enough, that's where you come back, take it out, and then you do it as a back stitch up some length. Yeah. So I tend to do things where you tend to see, like if you're just trying to outline objects, that's where you tend to see it being fairly technical back stitch. For me, where you see the lines on your chart, where I tend to use straight stitches is if it's supposed to be things like branches. So something like that, where it's like if you do too many, so, you know, back on the Never-Ending Nativity, down in the creche, like the hay that's coming out of there, all of that I did as straight stitches as opposed to a back stitch. So even though the line is over multiple squares on the chart, I stitch those as straight stitches. Why? Because it just makes it look like hay, because it looks like one thing sticking out of the creche. Anyway, Lena, I hope that helps. If you need me to do more on back stitching, again, just put it in the notes below, because you know that I'll cover it at some point. So the other thing that I wanted to talk about was, we talked about beading last week. So I just wanted to show you, because I did beading this week, I just wanted to show you how my tacky bob looks like as we're getting towards the end of the beading process. So there were 6 colors of beads. Getting to that time of the day. Okay. So there were 6 colors of beads, and again, so this is the benefit of a tacky bob, right, is I can hold it up like this and none of the beads are rolling around. This particular kit came with 2 separate bead packs with 3 colors of beads in each, and that's what you can see here. So this is one of the bead packs with 1, 2, 3 colors. This is the second bead pack with 1, 2, 3 colors. So of the 6 colors, 4 of them are now complete. These are the 2 that I have not done yet, so that's tonight's project. But I just want to show you this. So the reason why it looks the way it does is, and this happens with Mill Hill beads particularly. I'm going to get a lot of glare off of this, sorry. Mill Hill beads are not the same size. They are not identical. Like I say, you tend to find uniformity in size better with Delica beads or Toho beads or like those types of beads. Mill Hills are not uniform in size. And so that's what you see here on my tacky bob. Now, it's going to be hard for you to tell, but I look at this and I know exactly what's going on. So this cluster of beads down here are beads of this particular color that I could not get my needle through. Period. Couldn't get it through. So as far as I'm concerned, when I go to clean this up at the end, these beads are going into the garbage. I'm not even pretending to keep them for anything. I don't care. I can't get my needle through it. I'm done with them. And so these ones are the ones from the green that I could not get through my beading needle. This is a better one. So in this color so far, I only had 3 of this color that I could not get my needle through. And these are the yellow ones, again, that I could not get my needle through. So when I go to clean this up, these 3 little patches of beads, are going into the garbage. These other ones, again, because these are Mill Hill beads and because the Mill Hill kits give you the numbers of them, I'm going to put these into little containers that are labeled. So probably next week for fun, I will come back and show you what I've done with them in the meantime. So again, so this was 1 pack. This is pack number 2. And so the same thing over here. These are the green beads that I haven't done anything with. These are the green beads that I have tried, but I could not get my needle through, right? So same thing. These ones are going into the garbage at the end. I will do the same thing with these beads down here, where I will, you know, as I'm stitching these on, the ones that I can't get my needles through will get shoved off into some end. There's more of these colors over here, so they may all end up here with these crazy green ones. But that's how I approach it, right? So I get all of my beads out. Again, I can close my tacky bob, you know, multiple days again. So I knew that I would not necessarily leave my beads on a tacky bob for like months and months and months and months, because I think that's where you can get some residue. For the purpose of this, I got my beads onto the tacky bob. They've been sitting on my tacky bob for less than a week. And if I'm successful tonight, it will be less than a week and I can get them off again. But again, so that's for me the benefit of the tacky bob. One, yes, they stick. Two, I get to close it up, which always makes me feel better. But again, that's the two sides. I had 2 bags of beads. I put them on both sides of the tacky bob. And as soon as when I'm done the beading tonight, I will clean these up and get them put away so that my tacky bob goes back into my drawer, ready for my next set of beading. So I just thought that would be something interesting to show, because this is how my approach is. Now, is there a reason why I keep them on the tacky bob when I couldn't get them on my needle, as opposed to just throwing them out right off the get-go? No. Anyway, actually, now that I'm saying that, I should probably throw them into my Ort thing. Keep them with those threads. I'm debating about doing a Christmas Ort. An Ort ornament. Beads might make for that. Maybe they won't go into the garbage. Maybe they'll go in my ornament. I should think about that. Anyway, I just thought as I was doing this that I thought it would be interesting, again, because we were talking about beading last week and I talked about how I was putting them on, but this is what my tacky bob looks like generally where I'm coming close to finishing up the beading for a project. And again, so this is not bad, again, because there was only 6 colors, there were only 2 bags of beads. There are Mill Hill kits where there's way more colors and way more beads, and so how I would manage that would probably be a little bit different depending on what that looked like. But for the purpose of this kit, this is how I chose to organize it for this particular one. And with that, we're at the end of all of my content for this week. So I hope everybody's having a really great week. I hope you're doing okay with the weather where you are. Like, there's lots of unusual weather going on right now. So I hope everybody's doing the best they can. As always, stay safe. Safety first, safety first, safety first. Stay healthy. You know your own health situation better than anybody else, so make the right choices for you. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Make sure you get some time to do some stitching. Quick little note, fair warning, World Cross Stitching Day is coming. We'll talk a little bit about that next week. So take care, have a great week, and I look forward to seeing you next week.